Our Democratic candidate for City Council. We were waiting for Adam to get here, so we could start and have everybody here. And I propose that they do a general discussion to begin with, and then have you guys chime in and ask questions. The general discussion would be, what is going to be your strategy as a council in managing growth? What are the big issues that are facing Flagstaff? What are going to be the things that you have to cope with, and how do you want to cope? What are your thoughts about how to cope? So they agree that that would be kind of fun to talk. All of them have different thoughts on it. And when you want to chime in, just raise your hand and let's have a good discussion. So I don't know who wants to begin. Go right down the line. Then I'm going to come right down here.
You know, I'm going to stand right to the city mumble. It's not crisis.
Maybe you should say your name first.
Oh, I'm out for my button. I'm sorry. Okay. Yeah, I'm Alex Martinez. I'm running for city council. I've lived here about 20 years. I'll give you a little bit of my background. As a school superintendent, recently I took on a job with an engineering company. Was doing R&D on new propulsion systems. It's a new engine. And we just recently talked to a Russian, South Korean, and some guy from Singapore. And this company is located in Chandler and in Singapore. So if we can get it going, it'll probably change the way we do our guitars. So enjoy that one, because I figured that one will have the greatest impact and make the most money. But we're talking about growth. And the biggest single factor that's going to control growth is how much water we have. Water is always the issue. I was in on CAP, Central Arizona Project, as a young kid right out of college when we first brought it into the state. Some people fought it tooth and nail. A lot of us embrace it because, like Bo Udall used to say, you take out $3 of water and only put 1 bucket of water in. All you have to do is do the math and you realize you're not going to have enough water someday. And we still keep building, big, huge home developments. And nobody's really taking this seriously. Climate change, I'm not sure if we even thought about climate change when the Central Arizona Project was being developed. We have to, because if you look at our peaks, look at how much snow is being made up there because we don't have the snow. And we're using reclaimed water. And we're going to have to use reclaimed water to drink. SCA, the paper company that was out here on I-40, they used to buy 17% of the water from reclaimed water. And I was a representative on the water board because I was my second year as commissioner on the Planning and Zoning Commission. So I started learning a lot of this. And 17% of that water is just getting pumped back into the ground, recharging. And there are a lot of concerns about the water because although it's being purified, look at all the prescriptions that we're all on. That winds up in that water. Prozac is the prevalent recycled water in London. There are so many people who take it as flushed down to us and recycle the water. Those are the things we have to worry about. GMO getting into our water and recycling. But the one single factor is water. And we need to be careful because Red Gap Branch, which the city bought the water rights to, that water is really nasty stuff. If you think CAP is bad, I remember when CAP came in, people had damage to their plumbing. It actually just corroded, just ruined it. So when you hire folks to do this, those are the experts. The experts are not the politicians. The politicians just talk. And they try to pretend to understand. You need to hire people who really have top-notch hydrologists. City council folks usually get a stack of papers like that before the city council meeting. In there, you'll have studies like planning and zoning. We had a 6-year study on the Middletown project. 6 years. We had 4 days to read through all this and we made important decisions about how it's going to affect the city. The 6 years is what it took to compile all that information. Make sure that you look at your candidates and are capable of doing this. They're willing to make that commitment. Planning and zoning has opened my eyes as to how things are going. It's not good. One more thing is eminent domain. I don't know how you all feel about it, but my grandmother lost her house to eminent domain because it didn't open the deal in Tucson, and she got peanuts on it. There's a move on one of the propositions for affordable housing that some of that money is going to be used for eminent domain buy out Arrowhead. Okay, you know what? I don't agree with what happened at Arrowhead, but that's a slippery slope to get into, because if you start doing that, it becomes political, and that becomes retaliatory. We've got to be very careful about what we're doing there. Growth issues. Thank you.
Hi guys, I'm Austin Aslan, and I'm really grateful for this opportunity to have sort of an intimate setting with you guys. I think we're each going to sort of introduce some stuff, and then the way I'd like to unfold is just an organic conversation where maybe we're informing you with what we've been hearing out there. All of us have been doing a lot of door knocking with you guys, and also that was preceded by having to gather somewhere around 2,000 signatures each in order to get on the ballot, and that always comes with a conversation. So just to get a read of the room, how many of you are county residents versus city residents? So county first, raise your hand. Okay, and then city? Good, so we have sort of a mix. And I know all of you are knocking on doors in different precincts that will intersect with where we're running for office, which is strictly in the city. So, you know, there's lots of issues. I think almost all of them can be couched under growth, which is really interesting. We have the relationship with NAU, which I'm sure we'll get into a broad conversation about. You know, there's questions about how to grow. One of the things I've been starting to say is, you know, that I don't really appreciate the Don't Phoenix Flagstaff bumper sticker. I like the sentiment, but I'd rather reframe things in a positive light and talk about how are we going to Flagstaff. Because we do want some new businesses in here. We don't want to have to drive to Phoenix to shop up on certain things and just order things online. You know, it's nice to have a local thriving economy and keeping local dollars here in town. So growth is not the enemy, and you know, it's not even preventable. So we have to deal with that situation. But how do we grow? And I grew up in Prescott, and I remember during the time that I was growing up there was a council that was really against businesses moving into town. And what happened is all that stuff permeated out to Prescott Valley and the Yavapai tribal lands just outside of town. And a lot of people were, you know, I was a little kid at that time, so I didn't really understand these things. But I do remember my parents complaining about all those tax dollars not going into the city of Prescott. And they should have thought of that. So, you know, there's a real tension there. And I acknowledge it for myself as a sustainability candidate and someone who wants to limit sprawl and to grow smart. You still need to deal with the inevitability of a population that's increasing, of climate change. I think we need to have lots of conversations about climate refugees. That's a word I use surgically while campaigning. But on council, I'm going to be beating that drum all the time. What are we doing about ever increasing droves of people seeking refuge from Phoenix and Tucson, California, and Las Vegas, realizing that Flagstaff isn't a well-kept secret anymore, and how do we prepare for that and manage for that? And at the same time, you know, I'd like to talk about tension. I'm a climate refugee myself, who is settled here at Flagstaff, and I'm very appreciative for the opportunity to have done that. So we're being welcoming while, you know, Mayor Evans and maybe some of the other candidates here, I can't speak for anybody else, they speak for themselves, but I've heard people welcoming the idea of Flagstaff doubling in the next 30 years, growing to 140,000, 150,000 people.
The president of ASU just to throw in right there, 10 years ago, stood there and said by 2020 we would be at 100,000 people in Flagstaff. Everybody was gasped.
Well, that's 30,000 people in the next 2 years, so hopefully we won't experience that. And this came up last time a little bit too. I think part of the problem is the rate of growth, right? It's not that NAU is growing, it's that like we closed our eyes overnight and turned around and suddenly all of this change is happening so quickly. And tapping the brakes on that growth a little bit is something that I'm interested in having a conversation about. At the same time, you know, I do understand the need for more housing stock. And so there's just lots of conversations that need to be had about that. And another thing is infrastructure and traffic congestion and transportation, right? All this can go to growth. So I look forward to those conversations. And I know some of these other candidates meet those growths too, so I'll leave some space for other people to say stuff. You know, and I just want to echo Alex and talking about the water and how important that is, and how that does limit growth, and how that's not necessarily a bad thing, from my perspective.
All right, I'm Paul Deasy. I moved to Flagstaff when I was 12, and my wife was born and raised in Flagstaff. I have 4 kids, which is rather irregular when I don't have one around kids. But yeah, I got a 9-year-old boy, twin 2.5-year-olds, and a 10-month-old. So when we're talking about growth, you know, honestly a large part of why I'm running, I'm thinking about what's life going to be like in Flagstaff 18 years from now. When my children reach adulthood, what jobs are they going to have available? What was our water supply going to look like? Traffic, the whole picture of growth. But let's be honest, folks, we can't stimulate growth unless it causes problems for quality of life. We are growing because of the quality of life we have here in Flagstaff. Now, unfortunately, those go hand in hand, right? So we could, yes, stimulate growth by reducing our quality of life and not our water supply, you know. But the fact is in government, our job is not to stimulate growth. Our job is to prepare for it. That includes our water supply. One thing that I'm very much wanting to get done, maybe even in 2022 ballot, depending on how our water resources are going, is getting an advanced repurification plant for Flagstaff. That is to add on to our current system to turn our reclaimed water into repurified water, which is what we are doing, what they're doing in Orange County and other areas around the country. It's already happening. It's new technology. It is rather expensive, but alongside it comes some really great jobs. Engineers, technical jobs, construction jobs to get the water pipes up to our level. It allows for research opportunities with NAU and the surrounding area. And very importantly, with this kind of repurification plant, it may give new ideas with this research for the broader area of northern Arizona. You know, we talk about Flint, Michigan, and how horrible it is to have the lead in their waters, and we need to rescue them. Well, guess what, folks? That's happening on the Native reservation right now with our uranium. It's already happening, but because they're Native American, then nobody really cares. So this is the kinds of research things that we can do here that can have broad impacts on the surrounding area and the quality of life of others, not just here in Flagstaff. Aside from water, looking at transportation, we do have a tax continuance on the ballot, Prop 419, which is not going to raise sales tax, it just keeps it the same. We need to continue it. It's about to go out in 2020, so reset. Part of that is what I want to prioritize with that tax is a whole new east-west corridor through Flagstaff, which is planned. It is J.W. Powell, which is the road just south of Coconino Community College, the road that goes all the way to right now to Lake Mary. Well, we're going to create that road from the airport all the way over to 4th Street, where the Humane Society is. Huge east-west corridor that opens up thousands of acres of land that can be used for housing and other purposes that is not impacting the view sheds from the rest of town. It's not like we're putting hubs right there and blocking views. And it allows for us to prepare for housing. It allows us to prepare for using that unused land right now. People go in the National Forest. It's not a National Forest, but it's unused private property right now that people aren't hiking on and so forth that are disturbed. It's actually a great area for future development. This is something that I want to prioritize with that tax. It's only $12 million to get it all the way there. It'll help stabilize our markets for land because, yes, we have very high price housing, but it's because of the land that it's on, not the dwellings that are on that land. Opening up new land stabilizes the market as a whole. Also allows for these areas of new businesses and so forth to be coming into Flagstaff. Speaking of job, I'll just speak to job growth here real quick. Sorry, I'll talk forever. But yeah, so the second fastest growing industry in the United States is informatics and computing. What that means, that's actually my area of work. It's doing statistical analysis, big data, computer engineering, app development, cybersecurity, and it's all wrapped into that. It's like basically Silicon Valley. But it is the most rapidly growing rate. We have the skill sets right now in the city to be able to grow this industry if we can get the right investors and speak the right language and also get our internet infrastructure up to par. Because that is what is needed right now. I've already spoken with Congressman Tom O'Halloran about getting federal subsidies to improve our internet services, not just to the city, but the surrounding area. Because a new act in Congress right now, it's in committee, but is to improve our internet systems in small cities and in rural areas. This is something that helps everyone. It helps the credit card machines actually operate. They don't go down. It helps us watch Netflix. It helps businesses thrive and creates a base of infrastructure for the new industries to come to Flagstaff. So that is my plan for how we develop and diversify our economy and use the basic functions of government, which is to improve infrastructure and prepare for the future that we want to see.
Howdy folks, I'm Adam Shimogi. I've met most of you at this point. I'd like to thank, if not all of you, and hopefully you've heard or met me too. A lot of you know I've been listening and advocating for our community for the last 6 years and doing my best to speak up for our values and hold those who are representing us accountable to the things that we are asking of them. There's been breakdowns in communication, not so much by the communication itself, but the actual follow-through on the things that need to be done. And I think all of you know that I've been speaking up for us and trying to do my best to rally the community, to unify our voice and hold those accountable that need to be held accountable. And as an elected official, I like to believe I can do a lot better of a job, not only working with all of you, collaborating with all of our community to organize and rally and unify to make our message powerful, but as one of 7 who can vote and influence change from the diet. I look forward to having that position, to building more relationships with people in other positions of power, to do my best to network and collaborate to best our interests. I love what a lot of our candidates are saying about communicating and working with people in other positions to better our community, and I think we need to do that. Education is crucial. I put a lot of polls out on Facebook to the community, and I hear from people, well, we should just cap growth, and then you should just stop taking on students, and things that are not realistic. And we have to be realistic. Now, I agree, water is an issue, and maybe there is a day where we need to limit our capacity here in Flagstaff. But while we talk about that, right now there's student housing developments being built. Right now people are being displaced from communities, and right now families are getting pushed out of Flagstaff and the prices are going up. So I believe that we need to talk about long-term plans, but at the same time, there have been issues that have been boiling up that haven't been addressed at the city level for very long, and there are families struggling from that today that we all know about. And that's something that is my #1 priority. For our future sustainability, for our managing growth, we need to get on top of the growth that is occurring today and get it back in line like a bull out of the pen. We got to get that back in our control and take leadership. Our leaders need to do a better job at being on top of growth today and planning for the future. So how do we do that? Well, holding NAU more accountable, talking to Rita, that Board of Regents, Doug Ducey. We got to get on the same page with NAU.
David Garcia.
And David Garcia needs to get elected. Amen. Oh my God. Hallelujah. Yes, thank you. We got to hold these folks accountable and do our best to communicate our needs to them with force. And not just say, hey, we want you to do this, but hey, this needs to be done. And meanwhile, coming up with a plan, assuming they don't listen to us and continue the way they have been, we got to work together in finding solutions. So my favorite solution is public-private partnerships. I think the job that we did with Milltown was a good example of what a good public-private public-private partnership can look like. That's the development, the student housing development that's across from the university by Target, where the GMB used to be, or is going to be relocated from. And basically, the Planning and Zoning Commission, like you mentioned, Alex, worked hard on reading those documents, understanding that information, and they concluded unanimously to approve the rezone on heights and to rent by the room, the CUP, conditional use permit. I spoke out against it. I said that's not what we need right now. I appreciate what you guys are doing in your information and your knowledge set, but we need to rent rooms by the unit, not by the room, where we're only targeting students. We need this to be workforce housing, not just students. I met with a developer, I hosted public forums with them the day before the council meetings. His lawyers told him don't go to Adam's meetings. And he still came because he has respect for me. And that's the kind of relationship I have with people. He came and we just went at it for an hour. It's live streamed on Facebook, you can watch it on my account. The next night at City Council I spoke. And I advocated that council do not support the resale. They didn't. They postponed the vote and they eventually voted it down. They approved, and then the developer, I was in favor of the heights. I thought, hey, we need to go up. I'm sorry, we need infill. We are limited by growth in Flagstaff. We don't have the space to sprawl, nor should we. We need things sustainably, and be going up where it's appropriate. Now, that being said, not just high rises blocking every view we have. We need to cherish our culture and our historic town that we all love and the feel that Flagstaff gives us, while considering the growth plans that are on the table and everyone coming to Flag and everything that's happening. That's something we have to do, and that's something I look forward to doing. So I'm a big advocate of Proposition 422, which is the housing bond, $25 million that's going to give the city the leverage to negotiate with developers. We've talked a lot about eminent domain. From my understanding, from city staff and other individuals, that's something that the housing bond says is not a thing. We can't use the housing bond money to do that. So that's something I need to look into more, but I've been heard mixed reviews on that, just to let everyone know.
I think it could be done, but it's not memorable. I think the eminent domain thing is a little bit of a booger.
It's on the agenda, right? It's not.
Well, let's talk about it.
Yeah, we should talk about it.
What does that mean?
That means they're going to forcibly take people's land away using.
Well, I mean, I know it isn't domain, it's
But
domain.
it's up to a whole council, right? I mean, the power is diversified between the 7 voting members. And the advisory board is just that. It's there to advise, right?
Yeah. We only let Adam finish his speech.
We need to follow the format. We're going to go back and forth here. Let's just let our speakers then give us 30 seconds to rebuttal.
Sure. Yeah, and I appreciate the conversation, and that's something I'm always pushing for, is more communication and understanding what the facts are, what the reality is, and coming up with a plan that we can push together. I'm tired of the division, and it's not working in our state, in our city, and in our country. We need to lead by example and show what unity looks like to the best of our ability. Our economy, absolutely, that is something I am looking forward to working on, and I'm stoked about because of the way Flagstaff is investing in the population and now channeling that money into our economy to create a sustainable economy. But the root of our economy is the housing, so again, it goes back to housing, which is my #1 priority on my campaign. Traffic, that's a huge part of managing growth. And 419, absolutely agree with you, Paul. Connecting J.W. Powell is essential. And that is something that 419 is coming in to do, and I am in full support of Nathan and the collaboration with Nathan. 421 is also another transportation proposition, and that's increasing bus routes. There are folks that I know directly, Maddie being one of them, who tries to travel using the buses, and it's extremely difficult when it's once an hour. That proposition will allow buses to run at times every 15 minutes. That makes using buses a realistic option for a lot of folks, and that's an obvious thing. That's given. That's data. Water, absolutely. That's a huge concern, and I support what was said about water. And waste management yard, that is coming to capacity. We need to look into progressive ways of addressing that and minimizing that, so we don't need to find another 40 acres to replace that space. And that's something we need to be talking about. Thank you.
Okay, do any of you have questions about what we said? Listen, I'm a retired school superintendent, Navy captain. I love taking charge. You don't know me? No, it's straight up show.
No, I think your audience you to open.
Yeah, just put your hand up.
Questions, yes.
You
My
got
understanding with renovation of affordable housing has to do with the state prop that was voted in, I'm not sure when, 3 something, that basically says that we have to pay back whoever owns the land if whatever we propose to put on it somehow lowers the value of the land. Which is sad to think that affordable housing lowers the value of a property. I guess it lowers what they can make off of it if they hold on to it in mortgages and banks. But I think we also need to look at, and of course a lot will depend on what happens with statewide elections. We need to get our citizens to relook at that proposition. And we voted in, I think, not understanding what it was going to do as housing markets tighten, and they're tightening all over the state. It isn't just a Flagstaff.
Can you tell us your name and your precinct too?
I'm Jen Scambler. I don't know what my precinct is. Because I vote, and I do early voting, I don't go standing in line. I live off of West Route 66, which transportation is a big issue with all the student housing buildings.
Well, you're talking about Prop 207. Prop 207, they put if the city council mayor make the wrong move and condemn somebody's property and they lose money in the transaction, we're on the hook for the lawsuit because we're going to have to pay for it. You have to have people who are stupid enough and realize what the consequences are of making these moves. You know, we can have emotional feelings about how we feel about Arrowhead, but you have to be realistic because if you're not, you're going to hurt us. We're going to wind up losing more money in litigation and the lawsuits and having to pay up. This housing problem, first thing, is affordable housing. Nobody's talking about affordable housing this year. The other part is we have a $50 million capacity for bonding. This is going to take half of it. I can start naming from the very top all the things we need to do with bonding. We have our pensions for firefighters, police officers. That's underfunded by 90%. 90%.
$100 million.
Yeah, look at what Prescott had.
Oh, wait, stop. Say it again very loudly.
We don't have enough money to pay out for the retirement.
How much?
Over $100 million. That's the same.
Let me tell you what,
Use our bond capacity.
you know what? We've got to pay for that. So when you start talking about bonding, you need to look at what you are obligated to buy. The second thing is on that, there's no, the school superintendent, I was at Canton, second to last school district. We passed with 92% because we had a plan, we had benchmarks, we had follow-up with the duties to let them know how their money was being spent. And that's why we passed with 92% because we identified everything, all the issues, and then we had the plan and we followed it all along. And everything was, what's word we use now? Transparency. Give me a break. It depends on who you ask what transparency means. Every month we had our statements that were posted in the newspaper or they were posted online. How the tax dollars were being spent. So money was being spent for what they asked for. This $25 million, I'll bet you dollars to donuts, half of it's going to go for somebody planning. What should have been done before they even put this on the proposition. So how much of that's going to go in administrative? I'll bet you at least half and more. I've been an administrator for a long time. The last district I had was 11 school districts on a 400-mile stretch. And let me tell you what, I know how money is spent and how much money is lost in administration. So I'm voting no on affordable housing because it really is not going to give you affordable housing. We have homeless kids, 400 to 500 kids. We have veterans like myself. Thank God I'm not homeless, but we have a lot of them. We have the elderly. Folks, look around. You know, we're not all going to be able to maintain our homes. We're going to need some housing. What you can do is you can form co-ops. And like I've been saying on plan zoning, we need to change our rezoning. We need to go up and do co-ops and apartments, folks like this. So this affordable bond for housing, it's not about true.
And there's other solutions.
Yes.
There are other solutions. See, for Prop 419, like I said, creating a new east-west corridor opens up thousands of acres of land. Not only that, our current council has been putting stop to giving tax cuts to developers. Inevitably, that's that is the cheapest way of getting the housing that we need. You give property tax cuts rather than taking out bonds and spending subsidies, then it has the same impact. A year and a half ago, council was discussing how to change the development incentive package for developers so that way we could create affordable housing. But it never went anywhere. We haven't heard about it in over a year. By being able to change that into using that method and opening up new land, we can have the same impact without eating up our bond limit. And let me just put down exactly what we need our bonds for right now. Our Rio de Flag, the flooding issues, right? Even with the Army Corps of Engineers' help, it's going to cost $36 million to divert the Rio de Flag. If we have to do it on our own, it's going to be closer to 80 million. But let's think about this: $36 million for to protect us from flooding. $4.5 million more we need to protect us from wildfires. We need over $100 million more for our unfunded pension liabilities. And to set up our water supply correctly, we need another $250 million for water repurification.
Which is never going to come from bond.
Well, we're going to have to do sales tax on that, but the fact is that these are typically the things we use bonding for, is for water, natural disasters, and for pension funds for the public, and for education. Those are the typical basic functions that we typically use bond for. So because we continue to eat up our bond limit, we don't have any bond limit left to do these larger projects, and this is only going to cause more problems.
Couple points. We keep talking about this bonding capacity. We can always raise our bonding capacity.
Do you have to do that by the voters?
Yeah.
Okay, so the
But,
voters.
you know, in any single one, just to point out, any single one of these issues, they're all important. We all need to be spending money on them. These are all developments that are overdue and need to happen. Any single one of them, when they come up as a bond issue, people are going to go, well, that's going to eat into our bonding capacity, and we have these other priorities. So it's just a big alphabet soup of priorities, and I think I kind of like the idea of the voters figuring out the priorities. If housing isn't our priority, then the 422 is going to go down. But I think it deserves a shot so that we can see if this is one of our priorities. And you know, it doesn't raise your property taxes right now. The bonding capacity at $50 million has already raised your property taxes. That's all paid for. It's stable. The property taxes would go up if we want to exceed the $50 million, but that's a conversation that the city can have. And with the water issues, you're right. We do need to spend $250–300 million on water. That's never going to come out of our bonding structure. That's going to be a sales tax. It's going to come from other revenues, and it shouldn't be one of these boogeymen for knocking down Prop 422. I'll kick it over to Adam.
I can rebut.
No.
All right. I get a rebuttal too. I get the rebuttal. All right. I was in 30 seconds, right? Going back to your question, Prop 207 has us with our arms tied as a community, and the state in general has our arms tied as a community. And it is extremely difficult to be progressive and get on top of things in the state of Arizona, especially at the local level. Every time the local government tries to push something that the state doesn't like, they come out and drop the hammer on us and say, oh, your powers are revoked. And we need to fight back. And we also need to be strategic with our funding and our monies, because we don't have unlimited funds to fight lawsuits and court cases. But you know what? We still need to be fighting and figure out ways to get those barriers removed so we can progress as a community of Flagstaff.
And these are Republicans who are saying at the federal level,
That's fine, go ahead.
stay out of my business, right?
Right,
So it's very
exactly.
frustrating for us to be
Exactly.
experiencing Republicans
So-
overlording over city affairs, completely
So-
ignoring them.
So Austin will appreciate this because he's the only candidate here endorsed by the Sierra Club. I don't mean to steal your thunder, like in the sense of announcing that, but I'm sure you guys all know that. The Sierra Club asks us about banning the plastic bag and our thoughts about that. If you guys remember, I helped spearhead that here in Flagstaff in terms of getting the community behind it and rallied and moving. We had 80 people working together to make that happen. And I believe it was because of that momentum and that pressure that we generated did our effort go as far as it did. And then the state came down and dropped the hammer. They chose not to endorse me this time because I missed a question, which I'm still confused about. How it's to.
Yeah.
I'm
just trying to save paper.
They support me. Anyways, let's not tie eminent domain and the constraints of that whole focus onto 422. Let's think about 422 and not taint it just by eminent domain and talking about that. 422 gives us bonding money, which is gold, to negotiate and develop attainable housing. Pima County's done this with $10 million, and they showed $1 of bond invested money to $11 of privately invested money towards affordable housing and attainable housing. And that's what we need right now in Flagstaff, and that's what this bond is going to allow us to do. And I don't plan to use this money for anything other than the maximum return on investment that we can get. And I just realized I can't see it when someone's standing. Sorry. So you in the back. The state is underfunding us. Again, we need to fight back. The state keeps taking funds from us, and they're pitting us against ourselves and our own community. You look at Hojoni, went from 100% funding in 2008 and prior to now 79%, dropped to 72% and has worked up to 79%. And now they are the leading face for Proposition 418 and the Yes 418. They're saying, well, Hojoni is going to close, and it's because of all of you trying to lift up the community by the minimum wage. Well, Hojoni is being underfunded by the states. That's the enemy. I went to the 418 meeting yesterday at Little America with a new individual who's representing American Revive, which is a 501c4. If anyone knows what that is, based in Phoenix, he just moved here 2 weeks ago, and I was the only one on the opposition there talking and advocating. We went into a debate for 20 minutes. And you know what, at the end of it, we found more common ground than not. But still, we have a lot of differences of opinions. But that's the kind of person I am. I'm going to get in the front lines for us. FUSD is underfunded. Guess what? They're on the ballot. The state needs to speak up. They're putting it on us. Again, CCC is underfunded by the state. And again, it's on us. And now we're talking about pensions, we're talking about water, we're talking about all these things, and we're saying, how are we going to afford this? Well, for one, we need to all unite around the state lacking funding to us, while the government at large is dropping money on bombs without even thinking twice. I mean, the money is there. There's people dying. There are 400 kids in Flagstaff who are homeless right now. Okay, just want to let that sink in. 400 kids in Flagstaff. Okay? That is sad. There are a lot of homeless people in Flag. There are people starving. There are people very much struggling today in Flag. And the state is part of the reason why that's an issue.
Any used growth is directly tied as a strategy to dealing with the lack of funding from the state as well.
And so you're going to change the legislature.
Well, that's what you guys need to do.
That's what we need.
Well, last thing, my last point is we have the food to go around. We have the wealth to go around. We're not lacking resources as a country, state, or economy, or Flagstaff. But yet there's still people dying. The government is sick, and they've gotten us sick, and it's time that we unite and speak up.
The answer is split out the vote. Yes, well,
I'd like to learn a little bit more about this unfunded pension liability that I was completely unaware of. And it was also mentioned that you typically bond for that, which is, I don't know, maybe I don't really understand these things, but I thought that in an ideal situation you funded that as you went through the contributions of the employer and the employee. And you know, I know that it's a widespread problem throughout the country. Some cities are in horrible shape.
Stringent poor planning.
Yeah,
And it's not just that, it's current wages for our police officers and our firefighters and our safety officials.
right.
And it's the resources they have on hand. Our police department needs to grow in terms of personnel. Our fire department needs a ladder truck. And so we're way behind in funding public safety in a lot of different ways.
But how does bonding go into that? I mean, I usually think of bonding as
physical projects.
Yeah.
That's like water and sewer. This is all new to me too. Prescott just passed the bond because they were able to pay the pensions for the firefighters, for the police. And unfortunately, folks don't know about this. I'm in the Arizona retirement system because I was an educator, and we know where our money is being invested on a quarterly basis. We used to get a quarterly basis on the newsletter, but this kind of information doesn't get out to the public. And we need to know more about this and what the city council has been, they've been in 4 years now, going on 4 years. The new mayor and the city council, the mayor actually has only been there 2 years. What's transpired? It's like the VA. We always found out that there was a problem the day, the year of the election. So what happened between now and back a few years ago when we really knew what the pension problem was? We need to be able, as candidates, get information about this, because I don't. And it's supposed to be public information, but unless somebody makes it available to you, or has an interest in creating interest on this, it's never going to happen until we have a crisis. We're crisis oriented. It seems like every time we have a crisis, we react. Well, it's like medicine. If you want to keep your patients healthy, it's preventive medicine. We should have preventive government. It's the same thing. It's like with education. We put money into education and make sure we have kids that are well taken care of in school and they come out and get a product that can do something. Yes, I know I'm carrying on.
No, but I want to ask, now who are you going to turn to? Because I'm told we have a strong city manager, weak mayor, weak council system. I don't know the answer to that because I don't pay that much attention, I admit. But what is our system, and is it the city, the professional staff within the city who seem to operate as an independent force? Or is it the elected officials trying to get like Santa Claus? I don't know what
City,
it's like.
city manager has more power than any single member of the city council. The city manager
Would you
is
change the government?
that would have to go to the city charter. That would be decided on by the people.
But is that the issue?
We have to wonder what's going on with the pension investments, given what the stock market's doing, why, what the pension be. So who's watching those their investment portfolio?
That's actually one of the biggest jobs we're walking into right now, because I don't bad time, but we should have had a city manager already. That should have been voted on.
That should be the number one priority.
That is the number one priority that we're going to be facing right when we come into office, because they didn't get that job done. When they didn't put enough money into the marketing to get outside people in, enough applicants to get it done. And that's going to be the most important thing for us to do, is find somebody with some creative solutions, who is detail oriented to help run this city. And we're at the best, obviously, of the city manager to get it.
So what's happened right now, our system is, it's like the school
That's
board.
Kara.
You hire a school superintendent, they're in charge of running the organization, operations. The policy making is done by the school board. That's what our mayor and council does. We set policy, we develop policy, like for what, 2014 is the last time they addressed water policy. They should have been doing this a long time ago. Wind it up. Well, the problem is they're all interrelated. It's very hard. But you need a strong city manager or a strong mayor. City council.
So on the topic of city manager and leadership, I'm sure you all heard with our past city manager, we had conflict between individuals in our government, correct? So we need a city manager who knows how to handle personalities and individuals and can work not with all of the city government and city council, but can be an advocate for the whole community at large. It will be an open door to all populations and all backgrounds, regardless of documentation status or legality. I mean, this needs to be someone who can take any person in Flagstaff and sit down with them and actually listen compassionately and openly to them. So I agree we need a city manager ASAP and someone who is adequate with the right skill set, but I think it's extremely important that one of our biggest issues in the government today, like you're saying, what do we do, how do we change it, what do we need to make happen, is that we need people that know how to work with others, especially when we disagree, which is this week's Daily Sun question, which will come out in a week. But we need to know how to communicate and find consensus.
Next question. Let's do next question.
What was your name? Steve. I just wanted to add to your question. I think this bonding thing is a new idea, as a strategy to grab a hold of this, unwrap this problem that's been unraveling. And yeah, it worked for Prescott, and so they're thinking about it here. I do know that the fire department is planning to, they had already announced that they're going to be suing the city.
It's a waste of money again. The lawsuits, our state has wasted billions of
part of that
dollars
is
in
just-
lawsuits. And we're not
Ledger
getting
stuff
any.
and bookkeeping. The city has been swapping out overtime pay for vacation, for extra vacation time, instead of paying our fire department or police department. I was endorsed by the local firefighter union, so I've had several good conversations with these folks, and I'm still learning lots of the ins and outs of the issue. But between you guys and me, and I guess the camera over there, I think the local fire union needs to be doing a better job of advocating for themselves. I don't think it's been the strongest fire union in the past. And that's something I'm hoping to work with them on.
I'm going to ask you all a question.
Sure.
Have you looked at other mountain towns who have, I'm thinking of Aspen and Jackson Hole, and if you look at those towns and what happened to them, they become hotspots, they become rich people's backyards, and they immediately turn into Scottsdale North, which is something I've used already. Have you looked at anything that's an alternative model to having mountain towns, beautiful views of cool weather and elk, into something besides rich playgrounds? It's a model.
Missoula, Montana, Bend,
Where?
Missoula, Montana, Bend, Oregon. Of course, there's Boulder, but they're kind of in transition there to
They've got the big
big base.
universities, so that would be
But the other thing is that, we're different because we are landlocked. We are severely landlocked and surrounded by national forests. We only have about 50 square miles, and that's all we can deal with. So that becomes the
We're
issue.
restricted.
Yeah.
Yeah, part of that issue, and I don't know what the right thing to do is the increasing number of second homes and Airbnb vacation rentals that we have in the community, and like I say, and the state is again trying to limit us on what we can do with vacation rentals. But one thing I heard, like, people who don't live in their home X amount of time have to kick in some extra property tax or tax because they're not making use, they're not buying things in the community. But that's, and it affects all of our housing issues as well. I mean, I love Airbnb, I've used it, but I don't know what the right mix should be in the community.
First of all, the Airbnb in our town, just so we're all clear, actually most of them are rooms within people who are actually living there. What some people don't actually realize, it's only a couple hundred units within the town that are actually Airbnb solely. Or they're Airbnb in the summertime and then they rent to the kids 9 months out of the year. So there's some more dynamics to that in our town than just Airbnb.
Our family's tried Airbnb. We've experimented with it with our own home, but it's the home we live in, and we vacate it, go to grandma's
Most of the
house.
ones I've seen
Also,
are just straight,
stay in the house.
they're straight vacation rentals.
And over time that people were coming to our house, there seemed to be a switch that went off when people were expecting, like, what are you doing living in this house? We didn't want to live in this house. We want. So we stopped doing it because people's expectations have shifted away from borrowing your home to having a nice little boutique experience.
Well, but this has created some income for people, and if we start, the regulation around Airbnb is good. Whatever you do as a community, and the Republicans always ran on this thing, local control. And we're going to lose local control because the moment we try to do something, the state legislature is going to step right in.
Well, they already have.
Yeah, they have.
We keep coming back.
But Airbnb has created some income.
Adam's turn.
Sorry,
Trying to speak about.
I'm done. Go ahead.
No, I love the conversation. I'm only listening because I know there's people I can't see when I'm sitting. We're talking about the diversity and how do we maintain our culture and our community and not become the next asset. Well, for one, we had a housing symposium a few years ago. Was anyone there at the housing symposium? This was when the standard first came to town, that first development that displaced 56 families that have been officially displaced, which the mayor and others are talking about using to make an eminent domain on that property. Anyways, we had a housing symposium where different groups from different places, Fort Collins came. We also had UC Davis come and speak. and basically tell us about what they've learned and what they haven't learned, and what's worked and what hasn't worked. And we talk about the firefighters. We talk about them needing a stronger force in creating advocacy. I agree and I disagree because they're speaking. We know the issues. We're candidates and we know the issues. It's a lack of follow-through by our representatives. We know good models and good practices. I sat at the table with Jerry Neighbors at that event, that housing symposium, and I beat it in his head. Are you learning? Are you hearing this? What did you understand? He goes up and speaks on our behalf and doesn't mention anything that I pounded in his head. So we need leaders that are willing to listen, and that's number one. We don't need more people speaking up. I mean, everyone should speak up, but I think that there's enough speaking up occurring and enough information that's already been shared that we just simply need to take action on. Proposition 207 has us combined, like we're talking about. And going back to our conversation last night and our conversation today, Austin, alternative housing options, infill, right? Containers, shipping containers, backyard units, secondary homes. This is something this council is already working on improving, and we need to get more infill to create more housing, which is at the root of the issue, to allow for more diversity and attainable housing in Flag.
But not in my neighborhood.
Not, yes. Answer that. But that's the nice thing about this site.
That is Flagstaff, not in my neighborhood.
But if it's a small secondary home on property, it's a lot different than a massive hub in your backyard.
Not in my neighborhood.
Well, but that just really
You hear what I'm saying?
yeah, 10 seconds on that. Private-public partnerships, again, so that we can make sure that developments that are coming to town are what is palatable for Flagstaff that we want. And again, that housing bond really gives us leverage to make sure that that development is what our community wants. And even if they say down our backyard, it's gonna be the best we can put forward. And hopefully something that that community is proud of.
You know what I'd love to see all of you do? Get some pictures of the places that you envision us as becoming. And people are visual. And I'm saying when you show up, give me a line of easels there with pictures of Fort Collins and pictures of high-rises. And let people envision that here in Flagstaff. Because when we're looking at maps, I think people will just freeze. I don't want that in my backyard. I will never vote for that, ever. But if you could see it, you might buy into it. So I'm saying, if you can show me what it would look like, and then I don't think it looks like some damn trailer in my backyard. Well, not going to approve that.
Maybe we can do junkets.
I live in Ponderosa Trails, and we both live in Ponderosa Trails. We have senior living parties, and we also have one. You know what? Everybody was so uptight about what was going to happen. Our neighbor was going to go to hell. No problem.
The type of mixed zoning that we have, Ponderosa Trails, and also, I think I've seen it in Boulder Point. There's other examples. It's great. The family housing mixed with some apartment complexes and some old folks' homes, and some green spaces and bus trails and habitat connectivity going along all the way through it. I mean,
Planned communities.
Well, let's be honest, it's not going to be very efficient to be doing all this affordable housing if we still haven't dealt with protecting us from natural disasters.
Yeah.
So,
You know, we're still surrounded by wildfire. Cheshire is surrounded by blackjack forest. So, what we're going to build affordable housing there, and then it goes up in smoke. So that was, or the flood control project. If we don't get that under control, a 100-year flood every year, there's a 1% chance it can cause $1.5 billion in property damages. So when it is very important. Basically, it would take out Sunnyside, it would take out downtown, it would take out North Campus. Basically, 20% of our town would be underwater. It affects us all, though, because now we're going to have to spend all the extra money we have from the general fund to be able to do the repairs. So it sucks it away from all the other resources that help the whole city.
So we have a flooding issue and a fire issue, and we're short of water. All three.
Yeah, and
all three.
publicize that, nobody would want to.
I was going to say, but you know, we're
not the only ones that's living in California. But that's what it's about.
We will have snow before time.
That's why I feel that it's very, that's why I think it's very important picture and we prioritize. That is the thing. Not just on the ballot right now, which we have 6 different taxes and bonds. We're also going to have them in 2020. We're also going to have them in 2022. And it is statistically shown that people get tax fatigue. They get bond fatigue, and they're just like, oh, we're about to tip over 10% sales tax? Absolutely not. But then it's like, yeah, well, we're running out of water, guys. So when we need to think about that. When you seriously look at your ballots, look at it. What's the priority? I would love to have a bridge over the Lone Tree to go over the railroad. I would love to have that. But that's $72.5 million.
Oh.
$72.5 million. And we need another intersection. Let's just, right now, we have priorities. We're restricted. Let's spend 1.5 to just do a normal intersection.
I have one more question to all of you. One more question. Could you all sit down and list all your things, and the 4 of you come up with priorities? If just the 4 of you sat down and talked, could you 4 agree?
I think we're good.
Yeah, let's let that happen.
I was trying going back into the last question really quick, you're talking about education and outreach. You're talking about building a gap between our thoughts and our visions and what the city's doing with the communication in their minds so that they can be part of that conversation. Have you guys seen my Facebook work? Anyone? You guys seen nothing?
I have a Facebook.
Okay, so for folks who do Facebook, I do a ton of work using social media, and I try to communicate to the masses in the most efficient way that is possible. And I made a video not long ago on this campaign cycle that reached 40,000 people. So I believe that in flag, the numbers actually, they can show you, Facebook shows you who saw it and where. But basically, yeah, there are ways to communicate. Yeah, the people that don't vote. So education and outreach is something that I prioritize and I'm helping bring to the table, and I'm going to continue doing once elected. Talking about priorities, yes, absolutely. Well, for one, we got to talk to everyone, the city staff, the community, really figure out what are the top priorities and start working towards them. My personal top priority is housing, as I've mentioned. That is by far, I believe, our most pressing issue right now in Flagstaff. That is at the root of most everything. And I look forward to working with, as whoever it is on city council.
It's water.
It's water.
It's water.
Well, until people wake, developers aren't afraid of water. They're going to keep going. And then meanwhile, while we talk about water, our most vulnerable populations are being forced out of Flag, and we're becoming asthma. So we need to fight both of these at the same time. But I would debate that in terms of like physically and visibly pressing Flagstaff issues, that is housing. Secondly, yes, my number 2 priority is water. Absolutely, it's right there. Third priority is economic development. Fourth is transportation and alternative routes and alternative ways. I too thank you for bringing up the Lone Tree. 420 is the Lone Tree overpass, and that's the one transit ballot initiatives I'm voting for.
And I'm against 420.
I'm for 419, which is a continuation of 421.
Okay.
Paul, let the middle talk, and then we'll move to the end.
Talk about what? Taking questions or reading closing statements or say your name and where you're at.
Mike Wilson, and I live in the University Heights area. Now, there's been a lot of talk about affordable housing, water, growth, sustainability. They're all important issues, but one of the things that's really close to my heart is open space, trails, parks, recreation, and I haven't heard anything, and I'd like to kind of see what each one of you has to say about that.
Great. Well, that's one of my priorities too. I came into this election thinking a lot about those things and how we protect them and how we beef them up and how we integrate them into future growth and smart growth. We have sustainable economic development principles, talk a lot about habitat connectivity. Adam the other night had this really funny line. If you're a human being, I represent you. Even if you're not a human being, I represent you. Which I thought was cute, but it's not necessarily untrue either. I mean, we got to be thinking about our trees, our landscapes, our animals, our clean air, as well as our water. And part of quality of life is having that stuff. It's definitely a priority. And being able to access biking trails and hiking trails and photography opportunities right out of our front doors is one of the neatest things about Flagstaff. Let's throw dark skies in there too. And dark skies is definitely one of my personal passions. It's something I'm going to fiercely protect and advocate for. So all these things are important, and it definitely comes into the growth conversation. And it shouldn't be that difficult to set aside appropriate amounts of land for that for connectivity and for that aesthetic experience. And I think one of the reasons why we're so angry with things like the hub and this abomination, the standard that's going up on Route 66, that it looks is something like a Death Star over there right now. Is that it's just pure greed. They're looking at every square foot that they have on the map to put a bed there to sell by the bed, and they're not thinking about the pine trees running through there. They're not thinking about squirrels running up and down the arcades and the thoroughways, right? They're using every last little bit of that space that they can. And I'm not as familiar with this because it goes back a few years, but I've heard many times that the original plan for the space at the hub was a much more integrated approach, and that the conversation just broke down, and certain people were closing their ears, shutting their eyes and closing their ears. Maybe someone else can speak more to that. But my campaign slogan is solving tomorrow's problems today. And we've been hearing a lot of consensus here about we've got to get ahead of the 8 ball. We've got to look. Part of that is putting out the fires that already exist. But we need to be heading certain disasters and certain things that we can see off of the past. Okay. Yeah.
I'd like to answer that question too. Part of I talk about protecting us from natural disasters, but it's also, which is a priority, a very large priority for me. That's thinning the forest. That's forest restoration. I've been talking with Art Babbitt, our county board supervisor, about how we can do better at forest restoration, not just within the FWPP project, which was the project to file wildfire, but the surrounding area even further. We've seen that that's not just to protect us from wildfire. That's so we can have a more enjoyable time in our open spaces, in our natural forests, get back with nature. It's all integrated in that. So
it's also more historically accurate. The reason that the pine trees are so thick around here is because of historic fire suppression.
And what I think too is with them, the city owns a lot of small parcels around town, all over the place. What I would like to do is do a census of all these lots. Take all the the next council out, and we can get a little bus tour. And go to each of these places bicycle. I have 4 kids, it's hard for me to get around with the bicycle.
Let's take that new hub bicycle that goes around downtown. That'd be a good marketing.
If we could go around truly and just survey the land and say, look, these are the parcels that we already own. What's a good place for affordable housing? What's a good place for a park? Let's think about this and really take a full survey of everything that we already have and set priorities on what is out there. So,
doesn't the city have a plan already? But I'm literally asking, isn't there like a 10, 20-year plan for the city, or is that just
it's a regional plan.
So it's not.
Yeah.
Okay.
You talked about, open space and forests and so on, but one of the things about parks and rec is we don't have enough places for our kids to play baseball and soccer. The kind of thing that prevents problems with our children as they grow up if they don't have a place to play. And it has always seemed to me that when you have a developer coming in, like you may have in that area where the Apollo Boulevard is, you should extract some concessions from them. That they're going to build X number of soccer fields.
But that's already being done in the valley, because that is part of the plan. The developer comes in, they need to dedicate so much property for that. Not only that, for a school.
Yeah,
And that's what we haven't done. Because you'll have some areas that are going to be underserved or overserved by some schools, and some schools are going to have to be closed down because they have populations and neighborhoods cycle out. I need to caution us. We right now don't have affordable housing. If we keep taxing and bonding, we're also going to be known as a place that's overtaxed. We've got to be careful how we use our money.
Okay, back to the parks.
Let's
Well, go back to 419, which is part of connecting our community. That's one of the bonds I do support. It's improving our traffic flow, improving bicycle and pedestrian pathways, and increasing safety. If you get one of these, you'll hopefully understand what's happening. The propositions out here are really confusing, especially for the state. This is why it's good that we have this document. Because when it comes right down to voting, you're not going to remember all this. This is what's important. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, no, you're fine, totally fine. Just to tie on to that last off-topic point of education, if you go to my Facebook page, I'm creating videos on each of the bond initiatives, a presentation, a couple minutes long by the people who are putting forward the bond initiatives, so that's extremely educational. I'm sure that what they put is some nice snippet, short videos that really sum it up and allow you to make your own decision.
And my critique is going to go back to what I started in the middle with, which is all of you have a wonderful vision, but it's discreet. It really does merge. I think, I honestly
We're more
think-
alike than we are different.
Oh, I know you are. You're talking about vision. Certainly, I empathize with what you're talking about. But you have a vision about creating a sensible plan, paid for, reasonably priced,
Right.
good future for everybody. And here are the points of that plan. Bang, bang, bang. I think that would appeal to some, I don't know, but I think that would appeal to so many of us to understand a coherent view rather than you're for that proposition, you're for that one, and you're like, maybe some. You know what I mean? It just, all of us are going, what
here's
is
the
this
plan.
for?
Campaign silly season right
Here's the
now.
plan.
By the way, there are two candidates who aren't here today, who I think there's a pretty clear division. Hold on a second.
What would
They're
they
here
do?
somewhere.
What would they do as opposed to you?
Well, they're Republicans.
Well, I know that.
Okay, so I like your question, and I agree with what your concern is, and I think we're all kind of talking about a lot of different things at the same time because it is campaign season, and there's a lot of things we could be talking about, so we're trying to cover everything. But in terms of the plan, in terms of going back to the original question about open space and parks, so you remember that fight 5-6 years ago for Buffalo Park against your neighbors, the whole community rallied behind that? That's when I first got listening and awake to local politics and jumped in. That was it, and this community is passionate for our open spaces. We saw that with 423, I believe it was, 2 years ago, with the Greater Buffalo Park ballot initiative, with Mila Mesa, and we saw that with Schultz Pass recently as well. I'm a big advocate for open space, and with the Milltown development that Alex referenced earlier with P&Z came to Flagstaff, they wanted to build it up and preserve more space on that lot for open areas for that community to enjoy. I said, yes. The community said at times, well, we don't want it that high, bring it down. But then the developer said, well, we're going to occupy that whole lot. So these are tough questions that us candidates and elected officials need to be able to handle and know how to make calls that would represent our best values. So we care about open space and creating parks and developments. Well, my approach is, well, we got to work with the developers coming to the table because of our lack of ability to control as much as we can, but at the same time, we got to know how to negotiate to get what we want to see in our communities. And so negotiating public-private partnerships is a huge priority to me. Infill, we need to be building up, we're going to be building up, and that's the future of Flagstaff. Now, we got to do that with sensitivity, right? But vertical growth is how we're going to preserve our public spaces because we are limited by growth and we don't have that much land. Even though the state owns some parcels, it's not that much. Safety, we brought up safety, which was on my bullet point too. Parks build community. Diversity and parks create unity and create a program and an environment that is safe, where our police and firefighters aren't called on and we're not taxed on their services because the community is overseeing itself and is thriving as a community. So parks are a huge thing I advocate for. And when I believe it was Fonsper brought forward to City Council this year their ballot initiative that they wanted support in getting more parks and public spaces for youth programs, soccer, ultimate frisbee, the whole 9 yards. I work with Maddie on working with kids in the Middle East, teaching them nonviolence and mutual respect for ultimate frisbee. And I'm a huge advocate for youth sports and youth programs and after-school programs. And I'm a very big advocate of creating and enhancing our parks and open spaces and youth programs.
It's a very lot.
Okay,
Very, I am.
okay, wait, one more minute. What will they do? Somebody just tell me, what will your employees do? Are they just going to sign with developers and the developers will decide what we are? Is that the bottom line?
Well, the bottom line is, who's gonna get elected?
our opponents?
Right.
Yeah, no, I'm just curious. I think you should be able to define
Yeah.
what we are going to do versus what, if they are elected, who they will support and who they will support.
You know, who you like is really important, because I'm like, my campaign is funded by small donations.
Okay, so what
No,
are they gonna do then? That's the question.
Well, I'm not gonna speak for them because I don't know what they're gonna do.
So
They're gonna
maybe
be
you
the
should talk
opposite,
about that.
the opposite of what we're doing, probably what they're gonna do.
But what does that mean?
There's more common ground, I think. This is a local community. I think we can all agree that we need better roads. I think we can all agree that we need clean water. We might prioritize our things differently, but I'm not going to speak for them. We're in the Chamber of Commerce tonight, the debate, that was all videotaped from last night. On Monday, there was the NEIC meeting. You can check that out. The town hall last week with CAF also was all video. So, you know, let's do all of our own research and see what your own opinion
And the whole thing is that we do have a lot of similar concerns, like dark skies, which is really important, our water, our infrastructure, and all that. But, you know, see who's funding these folks. That's all, you know.
That's an important one too.
So, having run 2 years ago, I can tell you that the group that ran with me 2 years ago, specifically folks like Jeff Horowitz and others, Carla Brewster, it was a lot more decisive and clear as to our differences and how we would work or not work together towards things that we needed to collaborate on as a city. This group right now, honestly, like of the 6 of us, sure, I would love if I got elected to work with 2 of the 3 here. Any two, I honestly think all 4 of us are great candidates. Well, most importantly, Paul. No. But honestly, if Regina or Dennis got elected, I honestly think I would work great with them. And I think all of us will find common ground. And these are folks that do have reasonable minds
really well.
and integrity and mutual respect, and in a way that our councils in the past has not seen. And then I just wanted to mention, when Paul's talking about videos and the tapings or the recordings, guess where that is? On my Facebook page. So again, that's the thing I really am trying to drive home. I want to make government more accessible. And the fact that like we say, oh, it's videotaped, we should assume that that's somehow government or accessible to the public. Well, it's not. It is through my Facebook page. That's how behind we are.
Well, then you ought to have that as part of your team.
Absolutely.
You will put it up on the cities.
Absolutely, I'm going to improve the crap out of that. And then also, I'm also going to work on accessibility, not just for us who speak English, but for us who speak Spanish, for us who speak Hopi, Dene. We need to make government more accessible to all people and do our best to bridge that gap.
Okay, final commercial, tomorrow, 11 o'clock at the library. Nancy McLean will be in town talking about her book and her research. It has a whole lot to do with what you guys have been talking about in the background, where the money is, where the money goes, and what they do with it. Anyhow, anyone who can make it tomorrow morning, 11 o'clock, a real academic lecture. And it's wonderful. We'll do a Dutch treat lunch at Weatherford afterward. Then at 5:30 at Little America, we'll have a reception for her, and she'll speak briefly. And she's fabulous. She's all over YouTube. She's all over Bill Maher. She's being interviewed everywhere. So
I've listened to her.
yes.
When I found out about the plan of the Koch brothers trying to cut out Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, this lady did her stuff.
She did the
her
book.
research.
It's in here. So you don't understand how we got what we got. This is the book. It will be on sale tomorrow at both the library and Little America. I'm an advocate from the word go. She's explaining things that we've been teaching about for years that no one has pulled together. Anyway, want to see all of you there if you can. Yes, ma'am.
So, which library? The
Oh,
main one?
downtown.
Downtown.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's worth your investment of time.
Yeah, to find, I mean, it's a real researcher.
Yeah, 30 seconds. I gotta get
Now, I have to talk, you guys get to work.
We have two.
Mary,
30
you
seconds.
gotta time this guy.
I know. Hurry up, Al.
Okay, education, that's the best investment we're gonna make. Please support the school districts and the junior colleges. Those are long-term investments, they're gonna have long-term payments. Education is the greatest institution in this country. Whatever you think about everything else we talked about, those two are crucial. Thank you.
Austin Aslan, solving tomorrow's problems today. I don't think we should hit 150,000 people in the next 30 years. I think we should take things a little bit more cautiously with that. Other than that, I totally agree with a lot of the priorities here about shaping our community into a healthy, socially just, and a environmentally appropriate place. Austin Aslan for Flagstaff.com/contribute. There's a button you can push there to send some money my way. I also have yard signs. If you want a yard sign, come see me afterwards.
All right. I'm Paul Deasy. It's easy to vote Deasy.
Wait for the next one.
She loves this cheese. Yeah. I have 4 kids that are very young. When I approach these situations here in Flagstaff, I'm really thinking about can we expect in 2 years? What can we expect in 4 years? What kind of Flagstaff do we want to see when my children reach adulthood? Now, with that, I like to prioritize things. I like to dig into the nitty-gritty details to better understand how things are going to affect us now and into the future. As a policy analyst, that's my job. Digging into the details, and actually, I work in predictive analytics. So, but the 4, 3, darn it, my last one distracted me. Yeah, I got just 30 seconds.
Adam's been waxing poetic the whole day.
But anyways, yeah. Oh, I remember what I was going to say. Okay, so to prepare running for office, I looked at a lot of speeches. JFK is one of my favorites, and he used to say, "I'm an idealist without illusion." That's what I would like to be.
JFK.
So I am fired up. I am stoked about running for office, and I am stoked about the path I am on in my life right now. I never thought I'd be doing this, but this is so clear that this is the right path for me today in my life and in my future, and I'm looking forward to seeing where this leads. But I'm stoked to represent you all and be on the front lines as I've been on for the last 6 years and will continue to fight for us. I have experience. I understand who the key people are. I understand the conversations that have been had and the lack of follow through that's also been had. And I know where we need to apply pressure and how to do it in a way that has compassion, mutual respect, and integrity, in a way that the other side will actually listen and not just totally block us off and say, "You're not important to us." So I'm looking forward to doing that on behalf. I also look forward to uniting our community once this election cycle is over. I ran 2 years ago and lost by 59 votes. I like to think that this is going to hopefully be a success, and I definitely need your help in getting the word out, wrapping it up. Thank you. And then the last thing I'll say is I need your help fundraising, and I'm sure we all need your help financially. But I've been putting my own money into the campaign, which I'm totally fine with. But if you're able to pitch in, go to my website, ShimoneForCouncil.com, and donate. And you'll see your donation live on Twitter in real time, which is true transparency.
This is Jerry Brown.
True transparency where I think we need it. Thank you very much.